Hey guys, this is Justin at The Survivor Review, and you figure after reviewing all 4 movies and reviewing every episode of the TV show that I've pretty much covered everything Evil Dead related. Well, no I haven't, because today I'm going to be talking about Within the Woods. Now, Within the Woods is a 30-minute Super 8 short film written and directed by Sam Raimi in 1978, and it's basically a prototype film, essentially meant to show to distributors in hopes of getting finances for a full-length version of this story, which ended up becoming The Evil Dead. So essentially, Within the Woods is a condensed 30-minute version of The Evil Dead, and this movie always fascinated me when I was younger, back in like the early days where I didn't have fast internet speed, so I couldn't just pull this up on YouTube and be like, oh, that's neat. It was kind of this kind of lost, like, holy grail type of thing, because a lot of people would call it like the Evil Dead prequel, which it really isn't. It isn't really an Evil Dead movie, but it was called that a lot, and it was this kind of really cool, like, different thing, especially at the time, like, before the remake and the TV show, when all you had was the trilogy of movies. This was kind of like a 4th installment in the series in a way. This was kind of the only way to get like other Evil Dead content from Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell at that time. And yes, Bruce Campbell does star in this movie. A very young 20-year-old Bruce Campbell, which is just crazy just to see young Bruce Campbell. I mean, to see it as best as we can, because the problem is this has never been officially released. I've heard multiple reasons why. I've heard some music licenses because this uses licensed music in there, and also I've also heard that Sam Raimi doesn't like it because it's a very like low quality amateur production. So I've heard mixed reasons as to why it hasn't been released. But the only way to watch it is on like a 10th generation like bootlegs, and the quality is very low. Not the greatest, but you can still make out mostly everything. There's certain moments where it's like just pitch black and you're like, what? I think someone's getting stabbed, maybe? But for the most part you can see it, and it's just this kind of fascinating piece of Evil Dead history that's really cool to watch. So the plot of the movie follows these 4 friends spending the weekend at the cabin. You have our main character, Bruce, and you have his girlfriend, Ellen, who is played by Ellen Sandweiss, who people would know as Cheryl in The Evil Dead. And then there's also their other friends, Scotty and Shelly. And Bruce and Ellen decide to go off into the woods to have a nice little picnic. And while there, that's where Bruce reveals that this cabin was built on an old Indian burial ground, and that if you disrupt, the burial ground, then you'll get cursed forever. But he's like, nothing's gonna happen.
Don't worry about it. You're only cursed by the evil spirits if you violate the graves of the dead. We're just gonna be eating hot dogs.
And of course, the immediate scene afterwards, Bruce is like digging in the ground and comes across a dagger, and that basically unleashes the curse. And, they lay down, end up falling asleep. Ellen ends up waking up, and Bruce is missing. So she goes looking for him and finds his mutilated, dead body. She freaks out, runs back to the house. She's freaking out that Bruce is dead. No one really believes her until Bruce shows up, possessed, and trying to murder them. And the last half is your very typical Evil Dead ending, with the main hero fighting the demonically possessed bad guy with a lot of bloodshed and gore. But of course done on a scale even smaller than The Evil Dead. But it has that cool like homemade quality to it, because this movie basically is a home movie, and from someone who's into filmmaking and everything, that's really cool and really fun to watch. So what's interesting coming off of the Evil Dead movies is that everything is reversed in this one, because you have a female as the main lead, and Bruce Campbell is the one that gets possessed and basically becomes the Deadite trying to kill them. So that's a really fun, fascinating change of pace, and you could just tell, even through the murky quality, that Bruce Campbell's like having fun playing this like Deadite.
Join us.
What's cool is that even though this is a super low budget production and only costs like a little over $1,000, you can still see like Sam Raimi's skills and like creativity in this project. Like you see all that stuff that would become his staples in later movies, because even through the like crappy quality, this movie has some pretty good atmosphere and has some good like creepy moments. And I like that, like with the low Super 8 quality, this movie almost feels like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like it really has a Texas Chainsaw Massacre Massacre vibe to, which I thought was really cool and really kind of eerie. It added to kind of like the grimy grittiness of it. I would really love to see this in actual normal good quality, because I really want to see if that is from like the low quality bootleg or if that's just how the movie looks in general. But it does have this kind of really grimy, like gross, like creepy vibe to it that I really like. I legitimately like it. I think this is like a legitimately entertaining like short film that is not just fun if you're like Evil Dead, but liking Evil Dead makes it better because you see all the things that they're going to use in the Evil Dead movies later on, because almost like every moment in this movie ends up, you know, becoming something in the Evil Dead. And not just Evil Dead, but even Evil Dead 2, because you have the scenes in that movie with the character of Jake when he ends up accidentally getting stabbed and then gets stuck in the doorway and they're trying to like get him out of the way. That exact same thing happens in this one, but with the character of Scotty. So I thought that was really cool. That's really just fun to see. And there are some cool low-budget gore effects that's just fun to see. The best moment is when they ended up reusing later on in the Evil Dead, but it's when possessed Bruce is attacking Ellen and she swipes the knife at his hand and only slightly cuts it off, so he proceeds to bite the rest of the hand off. And apparently that moment was actually improvised by Bruce Campbell because they tried slicing at the hand prosthetic and it actually didn't cut it all the way off. Supposed to just cut it off nice and clean, but it didn't work, so Bruce added the idea of biting it off, which is just a great moment. It's such a screwed up moment, and it's also a great moment in the Evil Dead as well. But it's really cool seeing that in here and seeing it like happen to Bruce Campbell. And also it's kind of funny that his character in this movie loses a hand, which is what happens to Ash later on in the Evil Dead series. But it's so cool seeing all like the Evil Dead hallmarks in this movie. Like you have the point of view shot of the camera kind of going through the woods and everything. The opening shot is actually very similar to the Evil Dead with the camera kind of sitting on the water, kind of moving and everything. So I thought that's really cool. It's really fun to see that kind of stuff. It's really fascinating to get a glimpse at like the early days of Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell, like before, you know, they made the Evil Dead and became who they are today. It's a really cool piece of history there that's really entertaining and really fun to watch. This would be a fun, quick 30-minute movie to watch every once in a while. Even around Halloween time, it'd be pretty fun to watch. Even with this like amateur nature to a lot of the stuff, it's still pretty effective, surprisingly. And that just shows you how good of a filmmaker Sam Raimi is, that he made this amateur production that he shot over the course of a weekend that isn't even meant to be like a legit movie. It's meant to just kind of show you what he can do, and it's still legitimately entertaining. Bruce Campbell's fun. I like his opening bit where him and Ellen are walking in the woods, and he's just this kind of like goofy guy who knows all about, you know, like ancient Indians and the burial grounds and all that kind of stuff. He kind of plays this kind of like goofy little guy, and I like that. Even though the low quality kind of adds to the movie a little bit, I would love to see a remastered, cleaned up version. It doesn't even have to be like perfectly remastered in HD, just, you know, like an actual viewable copy of it that's not a 10th generation bootleg, so you actually see what's going on in every scene. And, you know, maybe get rid of that music and make like a new score or something, so you can get rid of the licensing problems and everything and the copyright issues, and you'd have like a fun little movie. It'd be really cool to see like an actual better presentable version of this, because they're coming from a person who, one, loves Sam Raimi, loves filmmaking, and loves Evil Dead. It's a cool thing to see. It's cool to see the beginnings of filmmakers, especially ones as inspirational as Sam Raimi. It's cool to watch Within the Woods and also check out some of his other short Super 8 films that he made. Him and Bruce Campbell made a bunch of those back in like high school and everything. And that's where their friendship and collaboration really began, with these wacky, silly Super 8 short films. And then they tried out horror, and then they got financing for the Evil Dead, and the rest is history. So yeah, that's Within the Woods, the precursor to Evil Dead. Not the prequel like some people say it is, but a precursor, a test, if you will, for the Evil Dead. And that's about it for now. And until next time, I'll talk to you guys later.